What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Global Gaming Network channel, where we get the opportunity to go over everything to do with esports across the entirety of the globe. Plenty to dive into on today's episode, as we have Valorant action kicking off all across the world. We have the conclusion for the Blast premiere, as well as League of Legends news and Call of Duty League kicking back off this upcoming weekend. All of that and more. This is Today in Esports. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks so much for joining us on Today in Esports. My name is Andy. Joined with me, as always, is Chris. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for everything we're going to run through today, but let's get started with Call of Duty. The Major 3 qualifier, you said, is this weekend, so can you give us a little intro into the state of COD right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as the state of COD is concerned, the standings are as follows. FaZe are at the top, following their Major 2 championship win on top of Major 1. LA Thieves not too far behind, but things are getting relatively interesting following the Major 2 that happened in Allen, Texas. We are now halfway through the entirety of the season before we make it to Kitchener, Ontario, for champs at the end of the season. There are now only 5 qualifying matches rather than 7. No more minor tournaments as well, so every single match that you win going forward matters. If you place outside the top 8 teams when the regular season ends on May 25th, you won't qualify for champs. We are now halfway through, as I said, and the conclusion of Major 2 in Allen, Texas has shaken things up. And, well, teams are going to have to make some changes in order just to qualify. Here are some of those teams. Starting off with the Los Angeles Gorilla Mates. General Mates roster, the French roster as a whole, have been under the microscope as of late, as they have made another roster change as of late. They have now benched Linz. Their one French player is now on the bench, as well as Prisa. And this doesn't come as an utmost surprise. You're second to last in the standings, so a change does need to happen. Skies, previously for this roster, is now over towards Optic. They brought up Lunars. They've been messing around with different components, but as it currently stands, Breaking Point GG has now targeted Johnny, former Legion and Texas Challenger Open champion with Omit, as well as fellow former Carolina Raven of last season and Omit Brooklyn player, back-to-back elite champion, to join this roster to maybe turn their season around. And now shifting over towards the Green Wall, who are again underneath the headlines, as they had dropped Fred again and had picked Hook up once more. This is interesting for the Green Wall, given the fact that Hook now playing with this roster with Skies instead of Kenny, a sole reason maybe of their reason of getting the #1 seed going in towards Major 1 for Madrid. Is this all going to be beneficial for Optic, who are now sitting in and around the bubble to even make champs? We'll have to see, as this is going to be the first iteration for this roster to play together. Minnesota Rocker are also underneath the limelight of some roster changes as well, as Paul X was spotted in the Challengers competitive Discord, inquiring information about the Challengers Elite Qualifier, which he did compete and he subsequently did qualify for. Shortly after Lord Gaming announcement, Rocker did, of course, come out with their own announcement that Paul has been dropped. They have been eyeing a lot of different players right now, but no official announcement has been stated. Miami Heretics have also stated that they are finally making a roster change, finally making a change for Super coming in towards the fray following Lucky's poor performance at Major 2. Maybe this could be a good turn for the Spaniards, and we could see them make a run going in towards Major 3. And now for the Vegas Falcons, who are also looking to make a roster change. You would think for a team that is stapled on the front of EWC and all over the place as far as esports right now, would not be happy with not winning a single series both online and LAN. They haven't even won a single hardpoint. So as it currently stands, Ronnie Intel is suggesting that there is going to be a massive blow-it-up phase for the Vegas Falcons, with only Exnid going to be the remaining member. They are currently targeting Prolude as well as Pred and Arcides, the joint Exnid, but as the time of this recording, it seems that maybe they're also eyeing Priesta as well. Tough to say, but some changes need to happen, as the Vegas Falcons are trailing very far behind, and they need to make some moves soon so that way they can qualify for champs. And finally, in other Call of Duty news, we do have roster lock has been announced for the EWC Club Championship. This is happening on May 15th, and the reason why we're talking about it here is that that is a week before Major 4 at DreamHack Dallas. This puts a lot of pressure on organizations competing in the Club Championship to sign potentially even a Challengers roster to make it towards the EWC to get more club points to maybe get a bigger prize pool at the end of EWC. It definitely puts more focus for the CDL teams to also finalize their rosters as well. Finally, map changes are coming through for Major 3 as we have now sent Sayonara to Skyline and Vault Search and Destroy. Both are now out of the rotation. We are seeing the return of Rewind Search and Destroy, a brand new Call of Duty competitive map to Call of Duty as well, called Dealership in Search and Destroy. There are a lot of teams that will rejoice in this change, but a lot of teams that are going to be very frustrated with the leaving of both Vault and Skyline Search and Destroy. More specifically, Los Angeles Thieves are 6-3 on Vault. Carolina Royal Ravens are 5-1. Though Boston are happily saying goodbye to Vault Search and Destroy, they are 3-6. Skyline Search and Destroy, LAT 6-3, Atlanta 7-3. But Minnesota Rocker, as happy as Nero might be to be banging things out in that one bomb site, Minnesota Rocker are only 1-6. So yeah, probably happy with that change as well. But that's as far as everything we got for Call of Duty news is concerned. Make sure you guys continue with the conversation in the comments down below. Let us know your thoughts about all the roster changes and the maps as well.
Thank you for that news of Call of Duty. Can't wait to see if there's any of those roster changes come to fruition, and make sure you tune in on Thursday, as he said, to see what we're going to look at going into the qualifier this weekend. But let's go ahead and take a switch over to League of Legends as LEC has started last weekend. With the LEC starting its split 2, we had some games over the weekend and some key matchups looking at how it might take place going ahead for the road to MSI. So let's go ahead and take a look at Saturday's matches, which had 3 over the previous 2 that we saw in split 1. Now taking a look at the match of the game day, we saw G2 versus MKOI. We had G2 coming off of a loss to KC in split 1, and they did not make it to first stand, so we'll have to see how they go into the split to see if they can make it to MSI. They started off versus MKOI, who was one of the top projected teams as well going into split 2. Game 1, the early game, we only saw a total of 3 kills between the 2 teams, and G2 had a slight gold lead going into the mid-game. The game would break open, though, after the 22nd minute when KOI attempted to react to G2, starting the Otacon. After the fight turning in favor for G2, they were able to secure the Otacon plus 2 kills and a Drake that gave them a 4K gold lead in the mid-game. G2 would then continue to control the map, seeing 4 of the teammates look to push for kills, while Caps was pushed on the side lane for Yon, putting the pressure onto MKOI. Then we would see G2 take an uncontested Baron, using a good job of their abilities to push out MKOI with the Baron buffed in. BB and Caps moved to the bot lane. They would then take the tower and move into a 2v4 fight, which gave BB the ability to kill one of the members of MKOI. At that point, they were able to push into the base and ultimately end the game in the 28th minute. Broken Blade would be the player of that game, ending with a 5-1 and 2 KDA while doing 23k damage to champion. With the game 1 lead going into game 2, MKOI would start with a much better early game. They would get 6 kills to 1 about 10 minutes into the game, giving them about a 4k gold lead. And most of the members of MKOI would have a gold lead over their respecting lane opponents. G2 would get back into the game around 13 minutes, finding some picks, evening up about the gold lead, but it wouldn't last too long after the 17th minute. MKOI to finally break the mid-game stalemate, where they got 2 kills, allowing them to get a tower, Drake, and the Rift Herald, pushing their lead into the late game. Now, although G2 was able to keep themselves in the game through the mid-game a bit, MKOI was able to find 2 defining game fights in the late game, which gave them the game 2 victory. The first being in the 34th minute, where a fight at the Drake ended with 4 kills on G2, allowing MKOI to get the Hex Drake Soul, and then in the 36th minute, MKOI started the Baron, making G2 have to react, ended in a team ace for MKOI, which will allow them to push down the mid lane and end the game, tying the series 1-1. Eloya would end the game 6-3-12, but with help, his team secure 6 grubs with Herald Otacon and the 4 Drakes, giving them the win at the end of the game. Now with the series tied 1-1, we go into game 3. We finally see the full Fearless draft go into effect, where we finally saw a Mundo jungle coming out by G2 Skewmon. Both teams would find a kill in the early game off of ganks from the jungler, but the teams would focus more on lane pressure and objective going into the mid-game. Eloya would focus on the Void Grubs once again, picking up all 6, while Skewmon would turn his attention to get 2 Drakes and the Rift Herald for G2. We finally saw this objective play in the 22nd minute, where G2's LeBron would find a massive 4-man Nico ult during a KOI invade, which would break the deadlock between the 2 teams. This would end in a team ace for G2 and would allow them to get the Otacon buff. This will give them a massive lead going into the mid-game, and then after a pick onto Eloya in the 27th minute, G2 would take Baron, pressure MKOI's lane. Skewmon would then go where he pleases on the Mundo, charge down the top lane, allowing his team to once again ace KOI. They would win game 3 and take the series 2-1. Skumon would end the game 2-0-9 on the Mundo and would be voted player of the series, ending with a 4-5-21 KDA and had the highest kill participation for G2 across the series.
Now over towards the 30th of March, we did have Vitality winning 2-0 versus Gigantics, but MKOI versus Carmine Corp was the series of the week. And this came back as the runner-ups as the first stand tournament and will face off against MKOI, who lost to G2 in the first series of the split. Game 1 would see another interesting pick as MKOI top laner Miran would pick Annie into Kana's Gnar. The early game would see both teams trading kills and objectives in the early game, with KC having a slight gold lead at 15 minutes. While both teams were moving to the second Drake, a 4v4 team fight would break out, ending with a quad kill and Drake for Yike at 16 minutes, giving KC a lead going into the mid-game. KC would use that lead to continue to find picks and objectives, extending their gold lead to 4.8k by the 20-minute mark. Heading into the late game, MKOI would be unable to find a way back into the game, and a fight in the 28th minute would allow KC to gain positional advantage to take the Baron. Baron buff secured for KC would win them the game 1 in the 31st minute to give them a 1-0 lead in the series. Yike would have an outstanding performance in this game number 1 on Lilia with a 7-0-4 KDA. Game 2, MKOI would stick to a more standard draft and find much more success. Despite giving 3 kills to KC's Vladdy on an Akali, they would limit KC to only 5 total kills in the 34-minute game. In the 21st minute, Koi would find an ace on KC after an initial kill onto Kana at the T2 mid tower would cause KC to follow up onto multiple members of Koi in their blue side jungle. The action would not stop there when another team fight would break out at the 4th Drake. This is at the 23rd minute. We would also see 4 kills to 0 for MKOI. MKOI would play conservatively until they would get an ace at the 34th minute to end the game, tying up the series 1 apiece. Jojo Pyun would go 5-1-12 on the Talia and ended the game with a 24.7k damage done to champs. Bring on Game 3. Koi would ride the momentum of Game 2 and start off strong, picking up the first 3 kills of the game, but Yike would keep KC in the game by taking the first 2 Drakes. MKOI would continue to have success in a scrappy playstyle and had an 11-2 kill and a 6k gold lead at the 22-minute mark. But KC would show us why they were the runner-up at first stand. Taking advantage of misplays by MKOI, KC would claw their way back into the game, getting multiple shutdowns on MKOI. Finally, after a kill onto Miran, they would take the Elder buff, allowing them to take the Baron at the 42nd mark, and with both buffs secured, would make their way into MKOI's base. And after picking off MKOI's members, they would win the game 3 and the series 2-1. Kalist would end the game with a 6-2 and 11 KDA and a 21.4k damage on the Misfortune. And Kana would be named the player of the series, ending with a 10-7 and 10 KDA across all 3 games.
As a quick recap, we did have Saturday's matches. Fnatic taking a 2-0 victory over Giant X, Team Heretics taking a 2-0 victory over Rogue, and then G2 taking a 1-0 victory over MKOI. Yesterday's matches on Sundays, Vitality did have a 2-0 victory over Giant X, and then we had a 2-1 victory in favor of Carmine Corps over MKOI as well. As a quick reminder though, later today we will have BDS playing against Rogue and then Fnatic playing versus SK to round out Week 1 in the LEC. And in other league news, LTA will be beginning this Saturday, April 5th, so make sure you tune in on Thursday as we give a quick recap of LTA North and LTA South key matches going into the weekend.
Always a good time to talk about what's going on in Summoner's Rift, but how about we stay in the Riot sphere, but now shifting our focus over towards our tactical shooter for Valorant. VCT has been kicking off regionally across the entirety of the globe, but here on the Global Gaming Network channel, we're going to be taking a keen focus on the Americas and EMEA, starting off with EMEA. Some of those matches have already gone down this past week.
Taking a look at EMEA, we have Fnatic versus Na'Vi. Fnatic and Na'Vi series will start with Fnatic's map pick on split. Starting on offense, Fnatic would finish the half 6-4 before swapping sides. After moving to defense, they would limit Na'Vi to only one round win, winning the map in a 13-5 victory. Now moving on to map number 2, Navi's picked which would go to Fracture. They would also start on defense. In the first half, we see both teams even out about 6-6 at the side swap, but Navi would start strong, building their lead to 11-7 at round 18. But from here on, it would be all Fnatic. Fnatic would end the game with 6-round wins, ending Fracture 13-11 and taking the series 2-0. Crashies would end the series with 46 kills and only 22 deaths, with a 201.4 ADR while playing Fade and Tejo. Now looking at the series of the day though, we have Team Liquid versus Gentle Mates. Team Liquid, who attended Masters Bangkok, looked to have a strong start of the stage, but Gentle Mates seemed to have different plans going into week 1. On that map number 1, which would be Team Liquid's pick going on the split, they would drop the first 2 rounds, but they would bring it back with 3-round wins and limit Gentle Mates to only 4-round wins in the first half before swapping to offense, leading the map 6-4. After losing the pistol round, Team Liquid would win round 14 and only drop one more round before winning round 16 to 19 to win the map 13-6 and putting them up 1-0 in the series. Moving to map number 2, we would look at Gentle Mates' pick going to Haven, and they would start on offense. The first half, we would see some back and forth actions, but after winning 5 rounds in a row, between rounds 5 and 9, Gentle Mates would lead the series 5-7 before swapping to defense. Team Liquid would fare better on offense and would end up tying the rounds 12-12, leading into overtime. Gentle Mates would start OT on offense and get a plant in round 25, and with a solid side defense, they would eliminate TL before the spike would detonate. On overtime defense though, Gentle Mates would get elimination on TL before they could get the plant and take the 2 overtime wins needed to win 14-12 and tying up the series to 1-1. Now to the decider map on Icebox. Gentle Mates would win the first 4 rounds on offense before TL could answer back in rounds 5 and 6, but G8 would keep their composure and end the offensive half 8-4 before swapping to defense. On defense, G8 would take the first 3 rounds, playing them up 11-4, and with the game's end in sight, TL attempted to battle back with 2 rounds win of their own, but G8 would then find the last 2 rounds needed to take the map 13-6 in the series 2-1 over TL. Mini would end the series with 56 kills and only 35 deaths, with a 161.3 ADR while playing Viper, Cypher, and Killjoy in the series.
Now over towards North America. 100 Thieves versus Evil Geniuses is going to be our first focus out of Group Alpha, where they are coexisting with Crew, Sentinels, and Loud. 100 Thieves are coming off of a loss versus Sentinels in Week 1, where they lost 1-2, and you'd consider this to be a tougher opponent with the group on paper. Evil Geniuses, on the other side, are in a similar field, but coming off of a Week 1 loss to a very good 2-game esports roster. Fracture was the first map pick, and Evil Geniuses picked that map. Turns out that their best bet to push it to the split map 3 decider, as 100 Thieves IGL Bucio was reading everything that EG was throwing their way. 13-10 on Fracture, then 13-7 on 100 Thieves map pick Haven had them 1-1 in the group stage, while EG are now 0-2. Switching over towards G2 Esports versus MIBR. G2 are coming into the series as the house favorites in the entire region, obviously from their second place at Masters Bangkok. Who can blame them and other analysts? MIBR, on the other side, are coming into the series off of a win versus Leviathan, and both teams are 1-0 altogether. Should be a pretty good series on paper. And it absolutely was. MIBR taking their map 1 pick on Pearl in overtime by winning the first 2 rounds in OT, but the hot fuse unfortunately would fizzle out relatively quickly. G2 would get their map pick on Haven for the map 2, which they would win 13-11, and then on to the decider of Ascent, it would be a 13-8 win, and G2 are now 2-0 in Group Omega. But the biggest turning point, as far as the weekend's matches are concerned, is Sentinels versus Crew. The fall from grace, or is this just the rise of Crew? I don't know, you all decide. Sentinels have been the highest seed and had the luxury of manipulating the veto process to their advantage, or so it would seem. Lotus was the first map in this series, where the first half had both teams just about even, 6-6, but then it was Sentinels' turn to attack. And they only won a single round, but the normal slaying from Sentinels was nowhere to be found as they lost map 1 7-13. Map 2 would take us over to Icebox. This was Crew's choice, with Split hanging in the distance for a decider if we needed it. Sentinels Zekin had a much better game 2 than 1, but it just wasn't enough. The Sentinels were playing deflated, and it simply couldn't play a second half to save their lives. Much like the first map, Sentinels would only put up a single round during the second half to lose map 2 8-13 in the series 0-2. This puts Sentinels in a really weird position given how they are now 1-1 in Group Alpha with still needing to play 2G and EG. Good thing they got that week 1 buffer of a map 3 win versus 100T though, right? As conclusion for this past weekend for the Americas, NRG did beat Furia 2-1. Sentinels, as I said, lost to Crew Esports 0-2. 100 Thieves bested EG 2-0. G2, as I was talking about, did beat MIBR 2-1. 2G beat Loud 2-0, and I guess unimportantly, Leviathan got absolutely millywhopped by Cloud9 2-0. As far as standings are concerned, Group Alpha crew are up at the top. 100 Thieves are able to gain at least a spot, but things are very subject to change with the 0-2 Loud and the 1-1 Sentinels hanging down there at the bottom. As far as Group Omega is concerned, G2 and Cloud9 are dead even as far as their series are concerned. Yeah, you can make an argument for their round count, but maps are maps. MIBR 1-1, NRG 1-1, and Furia and Leviathan still searching for their first series win. All of that action is going to be continuing on for the Americas this upcoming weekend, so you want to make sure you tune in on Thursday to get our insight on the matches you want to be watching. And that's all we have as far as Valorant is concerned. Make sure we get together as far as the comments are concerned to talk about who is the best for all of the regions, and make sure you tune into all 4 regions as competitions are happening across the globe. But that's all for the games. We'll put that on the shelf for now. Let's shift our focus over to the news with a quick little roundup.
Our LCS Major Birmingham concluded over the weekend with Carmine Corps coming out the victors. They only dropped 2 total maps over the course of the playoff stage and then swept the grand finals 4-0 for their victory. Congratulations to them. We'll be excited to see what happens in the rest of the RLCS as the year goes on.
In sim racing news, Jarno Oatmere is now crowned a 3-time F1 sim racing world champion. The Oracle Red Bull sim racing champion has been crowned once more a champion of the F1 sim community. Congratulations to Oatmere.
Can you feel that excitement building? We sure can. There's only 100 days left until EWC kicks off. Let us know what games you're most excited for, and if you haven't, go ahead and check out their website to see everything that'll be played during the EWC this year.
PUBG also had a major championship this past weekend. Congratulations to El Proyecto, are the PUBG Americas Series 5 champions.
And we could not leave out Halo as they had their first LAN of 2025. The Kaysen Showdown ended with Shopify Rebellion being the victors. Let us know some of your favorite moments from that LAN.
And that's all we got as far as the news is concerned. But if we miss anything, make sure you guys add us on all the social media platforms. You know where to find us. We want to get into the conversations with you all at home. But speaking of all of that, how about what just went down as far as Lisbon is concerned for the Blast Open spring season has just concluded. We got a lot to unpack here.
And what a conclusion it was. But let's go ahead and start off with Navi versus Team Spirit. The last time they faced each other was in IAM Katowice 25, where Navi won 2-1. And the opposite side of the playoff bracket in the ESL Pro League 21. Team Spirit is the number 3 team from Group A in their 1-2 loss against Mouz in the upper bracket semifinals, but they then beat FaZe 2-0 and Virtus Pro 2-0 respectively. Spirit's global power ranking has been under threat to Mouz since losing to them twice in the past 30 days. Navi are number 2 from Group B, and they beat Mongols 2-1, but then lost to Eternal Fire in the upper bracket finals. Navi are number 2 from Group B, and they beat Mongols 2-1, but their 2-1 loss against Eternal Fire in the upper bracket finals was bad though. 9-13 on Inferno and 5-13 on Dust 2. No matter how you shape it, this was a tough loss for Navi. All eyes were on Donk as he is one of the primary carries for Spirit, and Spirit's records feel that. When he doesn't perform, they lose. Map number 1 would take place on Dust 2, which was chosen by Spirit and is arguably their best map, where they have a 67% win rate. Dunk's performance was well, but his teammates' Shiro performance was even better. Shiro would go 20 and 8 with an average of 103 damage per round. Dunk would go 20 and 11 with an average of 98 damage per round. Now, map number 2 was Navi's choice, and they would choose to go to Anubis. They have some good performances on this map, but so does Spirit. We did get to see some clutch 1v2 situations. The first one took place in round 5, where Lesky was able to trade the entry kill and then get the bomb plant, where they would have a 1-on-1 versus Chopper. Quickly after the bomb plant, he was able to win the duel against Chopper and secure the win of the round. The second one took place at halftime on round 18, where Shiro would also be defending the planted bomb. He would take down both JL and Bit to secure the round victory and put them on map point. Dunk would put out a performance on this map where he went 22-9 with an average of 106 damage per round. Spirit dispatched Navi quickly with a 2-0, 13-7 on Dust 2, and a 13-6 on Anubis. Player of the series would have to be Dunk, of course. He would have a total of 42 kills and only 20 deaths across both games. When he performs, he performs.
Now for the other quarterfinal match, Mouz versus G2. Mouz has been really good as of late. They've beaten Spirit twice in the past calendar month and are making an argument for being the second best team in the game recently. G2 on the other side, well, they're ranked 9th globally, and they beat the Mongols to qualify for the playoff bracket, so great. The last time G2 and Mouz have played was at the ESL Pro League 21, where Mouz won 2-1. It would be the same exact map set from that series. The difference is that Mouz were cleaner and disposed of G2 much quicker. Let me explain. Map 1 took place on Inferno, which was G2's pick. This map was well played by both teams and is a comfort pick for G2 since they are facing the powerhouse of Mouz. The first half of the map would be close, and G2 did put out a decent performance against Mouz. They would keep the half ending tied 6-6. Moving to the second half, though, Mouz would put their foot on the gas. They would win 5 rounds in a row at the beginning before G2 would be able to answer back. However, both Brolin and Zershin wouldn't let that continue. Brolin would get a 4-piece in round 20. 2 of the kills would be with a headshot and followed up by the other 2 with sprays. This would put Mouz at match point. Zershin would then also pull another 4-piece in round 21 where he would push into the B-bomb site and get the 4 kills to secure Mouz's map 1 win. This meant that Mouz are now up 1-0 and going over towards Nuke on their map pick is one of their favorites of the tournament. Mouz did not let off the gas, and they were relentless off of the last map when dominating performance round after round against G2. Sure, G2 would win the first 2 rounds of the map, but there was nothing they could do after Mouz got their economy online. In round 11, as an example, Brolin would win a 1v4 post-plant where he would be able to secure 3 kills defending the planted bomb. He would then delay the last player, Monacy, to make it so he can't defuse and win the round. Really smart stuff. And then in the final round of the half, Torzi would also win a 1v3 clutch defending the bomb with a Tech 9. This would tie up the first half of the map. Mouz continued their dominating performance going into the second half and would easily win the map and the subsequent series. Mouz would sweep G2 away with a 13-8 win on the first map, Inferno, and a 13-3 win on the map 2, Nuke. Zershin would be the utmost player of the series. He would go 38-21 with an average damage of 121 per round. That's a pretty dominating performance.
Next, we'll move on to Vitality versus Team Spirit. Vitality is the #1 ranked team, and they're coming off the first round bye after beating Mouz 2-0 in Group A. Vitality hasn't lost a series since January 25th, and that loss would be 0-2 versus Eternal Fire at the Blast Bounty Finals. This was Team Spirit's next attempt to finally stand up to Vitality and finally beat them to cement something other than the #2 under threat from Mouz. Now, map #1 would take place on Spirit's pick, Anubis. Spirit would start off strong, getting the first 3 rounds wins, but Vitality had other plans. They would win the next 9 rounds straight in the first half, 9-3. We got to see Apex in round 10 pull off a clutch 1v2 defending the planted bomb. His teammates would get wiped, but he would have an insane flip from sprays to get headshots and secure the round. The second half would not get much better as Vitality would then win the first 3 rounds, putting them up to match point. We finally did see some life from Spirit where they're able to pull back some rounds, but by that time, it was a little too late. Vitality would secure the victory in map #1. Now going into map #2, which would be on Nuke, Vitality's pick, we would expect another dominating performance from Vitality. But this time, Spirit would prove us wrong, where they appeared to have woken up and put out an almost impenetrable defense on the CT side. They would win the first half, 9-3, and it would put them in a fantastic spot going into the second half. In the first half, we would see some fantastic plays from both sides. In round 3, Apex would get another clutch 1v2 victory where he was able to secure a kill, plant the bomb, and then have a 1v1 against Chopper and win this. Apex would have a great headshot on the peak of the site. Then we also saw Chopper get an insane 4-piece while defending the A-bomb site versus Vitality's push. Dunk would get 1 kill from Heaven, but Chopper would ensure that Vitality couldn't get onto the site with that 4-piece. Going into the second half, Spirit would continue their performance where they would get the first 3 round wins and put them on match point where Vitality was able to answer back. reminiscence of map 1? We think so. Dunk will wake up on this map and secure a crazy 4-piece on offense, go into the B site and secure the victory for his team. He would get 19 kills and only drop 8 deaths during this map. Hopefully we would see his performance continue going on to map number 3. Speaking of map number 3, it would take place on Mirage, where both teams have had a fantastic performance, and it would be a great match. On the very first round of the map, we would see Sheer get a quad kill with his dual elites defending bomb site A. This would give Spirit a great start on the map and secure the next few rounds. Robs, however, had an answer back with a clutch of his own, where he was able to 1-1v3 while defending the bomb site in round number 4. He would show excellent map awareness as he was able to change between targets to ensure that no one on Spirit was able to sneak up on him. Then, now we move on to round 11. We would see Zyru win a clutch 1v2 with the AWP, while on the connector pushing onto the bomb site. There's a reason why he is the AWP Vitality, and he demonstrated it during this round. The first half would end with Vitality being up 2 rounds, summed to 5, moving into the second half. Now, second half, Spirit would start off strong, winning the first 4 rounds, putting them up with an early lead, but Vitality would not take this lightly. Vitality would proceed to stop Spirit in their tracks with successful site defenses and retakes, which would secure their map victory and the series. Vitality would win the series 2-1, Anubis would be a 13-6 victory and a 5 loss on Nuke, and then they would take another victory on the decider map Mirage, 13-10. Zyru would be the player of the series for Vitality, as he would get 53 kills and only 41 deaths. Donk, though, would put out a fantastic performance for the series as well, as he would get 56 kills and only 36 deaths. Unfortunately, though, it just was not enough. This leaves in question, can Spirit perform once they are out of groups?
They've yet to play each other all year thus far, but if EF beats Spirit in ESL Pro League Season 21, they would have actually squared up against each other. EF are global ranked number 5, but have notable losses back in ESL Pro League Season 21 in O2 versus Tyloo, O2 versus 3D Max, O2 versus Liquid, and then the 1-2 versus Spirit. Eternal Fire are absolutely Anubis merchants, and I think everybody in the Counter-Strike 2 community is very aware of that. Mouz, on the other hand, are not going to roll over. They are determined to be named the world's number 2 at the very least by the end of the tournament following their win versus G2. The first map would take place on Nuke, which was picked by Mouz. This is becoming an unexpected pick out of Mouz, as they have constantly put out a fantastic performance on this map. In the first round, Woxic would have a fantastic start for Eternal Fire, where he would get a 4-piece, all headshots by the way, and a fight on the B bomb site against Mouz. However, this appeared to be a slight fluke in their CT performance, as Mouz would proceed to put out a dominating terrorist side. They would only drop 3 rounds to Eternal Fire in the first half and would end the first half 9-3. In the second half of the game, the tables would turn. Eternal Fire showed that they are able to perform way better on the terrorist side, but Mouz only needed to win 4 rounds to secure the map 1 win. Torzy would win one of the rounds pretty much on his own. In round 16, he would get 4 AWP kills, defending the B bomb site to stop Eternal Fire's aggression and giving Mouz some breathing room. Mouz would be able to find the last 3 rounds required to secure map 1's win, but would only be after Eternal Fire was able to pull the game all the way back and have 11 rounds of their own. Moving in towards the second map, this would be on Dust 2. This was also Eternal Fire's pick. There would be a bunch of back and forth on this map, as both teams didn't want to concede to defeat. At the end of the first half, the game would be close, with Eternal Fire being up to a 7-5 scoreline. Eternal Fire would move over to the counter-terrorist side for the second half, which EF have not been performing very well on. Eternal Fire would win the first 2 rounds on the counter-terrorist side, but it would only showcase the difficulties that is the CT side on this map. Mouz would proceed just to break every single defensive setup that EF were hoping to hold for themselves. Mouz would secure the victory of map 2, won their terrorist side performance, winning 8 rounds in the second half alone. With this, Mouz wins the series. They won on Nuke 13-11 and Dust 2 13-10. Torzy would be the player of the series undoubtedly, with 40 kills and dropping 23 deaths. He also had an 86.5 ADR. Eternal Fire put out a strong performance and showed they can go toe-to-toe against Mouz, but need to figure out something on the defensive side in order to come out on top of the next day of play. But Mouz have cemented their ticket, their grand finals bound.
This leads us all to the final series of the Blast Open 25 Premier, the Grand Finals. Team Vitality versus Mouz. We just saw them in the ESL Season 21 Grand Finals where Vitality pretty much humiliated Mouz in 3-0. Mouz was determined not to have this happen again, or were they? Let's take a look. Map number 1 would take place on Inferno, which would be Vitality's pick, and they showed why they picked this map. Vitality would not drop a single round in Mouz during the entire map. Yes, you heard that right. We saw a 13-0, and this doesn't happen very often, especially in a grand finals. Mouz would only get 25 kills during this map, where Vitality would double their score with the 52 kills in total. A 3-0 repeat was in sight once again. Everyone thought that possibly we would see another humiliating defeat from Mouz after this map 1 loss. Could Mouz bounce back, or would Vitality take it once again?
Mirage would be map 2, and this would be Mouz's first map choice. We could only hope that their coaches were able to bring some life back into them. And the start of the map looked rough, with Vitality winning the pistol round straight up and then the eco round after. However, whatever the coach said to Mouz worked. They woke up and proceeded to put out a fantastic performance against Vitality in the first half, with only dropping 3 rounds to put them up 9-3. Switching sides, they only needed to win 4 rounds to secure the victory, but the map is heavily terrorist-sided, and we have seen Vitality's terrorist side. Vitality would show their terrorist strengths and would win the first 3 rounds, but Mouz would win a round and then would be able to break Vitality's economy. This would allow them to win the 3 rounds straight to put them up to match point. They just needed 1 more. Vitality would not let this happen easily, though, as they proceeded to win 5 rounds straight to set the game 12-11 and looking like it might go into OT. Mouz decided that's not going to happen. They would pull out a great round win to secure the map victory and show they are not taking the first map lightly and will not go down without a fight. We're tied up 1 apiece.
This would push us to map number 3, which would take place on Dust 2, again being Vitality's pick. And everyone's concerned in Mouz, would they be able to match the powerhouse on a map that they chose? Vitality would start on the T side, which is a heavily favored side of this map. Mouz would surprise everyone, where they were able to pull away 5 rounds against Vitality's aggression and were able to pull off a couple retakes. This would end the first half with Vitality only being up by 2, which is not a great position to be on Dust 2. Mouz would then put a fantastic performance for the second half, where they are able to get the bomb planted almost every round. Sure, they did lose some rounds where it was decided to save instead of full committing to the site, but this wouldn't affect them a whole lot. Mouz was able to win the map 13-11 in a surprising victory against Vitality and putting the series to match point.
With Mouz now being up to that match point, we would move into map 4, and it was their pick. The choice was Nuke, and Vitality needed to perform since their backs are now against the wall. But we must remember that it's Vitality, and there are back-to-back champs of the past 3 major events, and they would show why here. In the first half of the map, we would see Vitality show why they are the reigning champs of the year, and they would just stop all of Mouz's aggression and only drop 3 rounds on the opening half. Mouz could not find an answer to Vitality's counter-terrorist defense, and was not a great start at all. In the second half, we would see Mouz pull off some defensive wins, but Vitality's aggression could not be matched by Mouz, and Vitality's teamwork was at an all-time high again. Vitality would win map 4 and show they are not going to accept the defeat of this tournament, as we are going the distance. Map 5 looms in the distance.
And this would put us at the final map of the series, Train. No one thought we would get here. At least we would see Train played, as everyone predicted Vitality to brush Mouz aside, but alas, they were proven wrong. In the first half of the game, we would see a lot of back and forth between the teams, but Vitality was staying ahead. They were consistently taking sites and getting the bomb planted, and only lost the rounds from Mouz retaking the site and getting those diffuses off. At the end of the first half, the score would be really close, with Vitality only being up to 2 before switching to the CT side. Now, this is where things turned, and Vitality showed they knew how to play the map on CT. Sure, they lost the first round, but they would proceed to stop Mouz's aggression and getting the game to match point at 12-6. Jimpat would get a 1v2 clutch in round 19 to keep Mouz in the match, where he would get a kill, plant the bomb, and get the last one while defending, but it just wasn't enough. Vitality would win the last round they needed to secure the victory on the map and the series, plus the tournament. Vitality would win the tournament by beating Mouz 3-2. Vitality would win Inferno 13-0, lose Mirage 11-13, lose again on Dust 2 11-13, but will come back with the 2 series wins they would need on Nuke 13-7 and Train 13-7 as well. Zywoo would be the player of the series, getting 83 kills and only dropping 55 deaths. Mouz, though, did put a fantastic performance out, even with the loss. They were able to put the game on the match point and show that they are able to battle against the best team in the world. If Mouz continues to prove like they were across this tournament, we could see them finally take the championships off of Vitality in the future. Vitality would walk away with a 150k prize pool and 3 frequent flyer tokens to get their cut at the pot at the end of the year.
But is that good enough for Counter-Strike? Is Mouz the number 2 team? Is Spirit still the number 2 team? You guys get together with us in the comments down below. Let us know what you think of the conclusion for the Blast premiere, as we are now going to be on a week hiatus for Counter-Strike. Make sure you tune back in on Thursday for what is going on as far as the news is concerned. And ultimately, everything that's happening as far as the week is concerned as well, because that's all we got as far as the news is concerned. Thank you all so much for joining us. Y'all stay safe on behalf of everybody involved. This has been Today in Esports.